What's up, guys? Welcome to Creating 2019, and we are continuing this epic day. First, we started with Angelisa Almanzar on cultivating inner presence to attract love and intimacy in 2019. And then we jammed with the Woo Collective, Lorene Malley and Shakisha Reynolds, on the importance of unlearning all the stuff that we have been projected on, that we've learned that is not our true essence. So we are diving next with Dani Fonseca, who is a dear friend of mine, and she is going to be talking to us about divine magic, aligning with the feminine wisdom. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her on. And today we have a jam-packed day, which I'm so excited about. Let's bring her on. And it's adding. All right, there we go. There we go.
Hello.
Hi, darling.
Hi. Just trying
Loving
to
the
figure
hair.
out, How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to dive in with you. I said a little bit about who you are, not really, but I wanted it to come from you, who you are, what you're about, what you do.
Okay. I was having this conversation with my two sister facilitators yesterday, and I was laughing because most people know me as a leadership coach or an artist, a body painter, whatever. And I was laughing because I'm like, I don't have like a title for like a practitioner or anything like that, but I guess I'm a spiritual space holder, and as well as like what was the other word we gave it? I'm a energetic mobilizer. So
I like that.
I just like to take people's the living masterpiece that they are and have them help them navigate into either rediscovering that or taking it in a new perspective. And whether that's through my art or through my mentorship, or just, being a woman in the world who just wants other people to know who they are. So sounds good to me.
Well, you know me, I hate titles, so we won't even
Yeah,
go
I'm not a
on
big
that.
title person either. So,
But let's, you've been on a journey yourself, and we all are on our own journeys, and a lot of this feminine wisdom that we're going to be speaking about is something that has been awesome. Thank you, Eduardo, for that feedback. A lot of the what we're going to be speaking about is how this feminine wisdom has really, I don't want to use the word awaken, because I know you've been in this journey. I mean, I met you when I dove into my journey, right? So, but what would you say, why the feminine wisdom is so present for you right now?
Well, first of all, it all exists on a wider, much more grandiose scale than we tend to collect ourselves in our small little bubble. There's a huge shift on the planet right now in the universe, and the scales have been tilted to take on a lot of action, and we're in a time of a lot of, I want to say, mechanics and the digital age and stuff like that. And everything's about moving faster and getting results more like intensely. And to me, there's room for that. But when those scales get so tilted towards that, there is a less of a remembering of, and to be quiet and to listen And that is very much feminine energy, is the ability to hold and to hold space, and to just the very nature of our being and our bodies. We almost push it away because we want so much to just be in the race and keep up to equality, that we think that we have to push our feminine divinity away to match that of a masculine way of being. Nothing against men. I love the men in my life. I've learned from the men in my life, you know, how to tilt the scales from being a little bit too emotional to a little bit more grounded. But at the same time, there is such a deep need and call and balance when it comes to being able to sit and hold and look at what is going on, and as opposed to constantly needing to fill the space, 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 which drives us crazy, all of us, men and women. So yeah.
Beautiful. Now let's dive into this feminine wisdom. What is it, first of all, and how do we align ourselves to this beautiful divine feminine?
um so it's taken me probably almost 7 years on this journey. You know, it started with a journey through fertility and trying to get pregnant, and having a lot of interesting obstacles come in my way. Whereas I feel like anything that I've ever put my mind to achieve in life, I could get it. You know, if I put my mind to it and get really clear on, you know, what needs to happen to get there. But fertility is not like that, especially the journey I've been on and a lot of women have been on, where, you know, you can have the most amazing doctors in the world and, you know, spend $25,000 on treatments, and you still are never guaranteed to get pregnant. It's not something that's in our control. So a lot of needing to surrender to that takes practice, and it takes, you know, certain events in your life to actually just be like, you know what, sit the fuck down.
Bitch, sit down.
Sit
Be
down.
humble.
And then in addition to that, I have, you know, serendipitously, you know, from when you and I were playing in the leadership arena together from our first space, started stepping into a Native American circle where I've been participating in sweat lodges and meeting with elders who do a lot of Native teachings from different tribes, different nations. And I've been able to sit a lot with a lot of grandmothers who have educated me on, you know, the role of the woman, as opposed to like the role and like what she's supposed to do versus what she innately was created to embody the world with her gifts. And that goes everywhere from Mother Earth to this, you know, this flesh casing that we're gifted with. Um, and in a Native American society, there was never man is more, you know, than woman. It was always man and woman have their very significant roles. And in fact, the woman and the, you know, was revered as the powerhouse and the glue. Still is. Tribes obviously still exist, and nations are still existing in reservations. But even then, there's a lot that current society has taken away and shifted, so that it's just harder and harder to revisit that. And so what I've learned is really just paying attention to like our moon cycle, like how many women are like, fuck, I have my period, or ugh, I am PMSing, or you know, like I hate this part of the month, you know. And as opposed to looking at what it actually is and the ceremony that we've been gifted with, and holding the energy of the month and giving of our energy to so many people. And then at some point we need to release and let that go and have our own ceremony of cleansing. And Unfortunately, if a lot of, everything we do in our lives tends to be of a go, go, go nature and not sit and be and pay attention to the actual cycle of our bodies and of the seasons and of, the moon. Like there's just like so many things that are already in alignment that we can tune into that help us not only energetically feel safe and sound, but give us power in a way that helps the planet. And when we deny that, it doesn't help our men. It doesn't help who we are. It doesn't help our daughters. It doesn't help us achieve what we want to achieve with grounded, like sustainable foundation. It's always like if you're not really tapping into that, you're only doing it in blips and you have nothing to grab onto, so it's sustainable. So
Beautiful. And because I know you, and when you met me, I was deep in my masculine. I was like the fucking angry controller, right? As a coach. It for me, really tuning into my feminine and healing that wounded masculine and healing my wounded feminine played a huge role in the blossoming of my gifts. And how would you say for you, because I love that you shared about your fertility gift, let's say, let's call it that way, because I feel like it was a huge gift. Sometimes things have to happen to like stop us dead in our tracks and like take a hard look at ourselves. And how would you say that played a role, the fertility gift, played a role in the awakening of your feminine and healing the wounded masculine?
It's a packed question because there's so much that went into it, and it's taken years to create the patience that allowed me to surrender and know that I'm not in control, not from just my head, because, like I remember when you and me and Marie's were doing our Facebook Lives, and I was going through it, and I was really trying to get it up here in a way where I was like, I've studied this. I'm doing the work that I think I need to be doing. Why aren't things changing? And I was still trying to get an answer. And the thing is that what I've realized is, there is a divinity about how things unfold, and not knowing the answer is part of your journey. Do you know what I mean? And being okay with not knowing the answer, because let's get real. Like, I love people who have a passion for spirit and for God and for, all that stuff. But to claim that you know exactly who God is and who spirit is and what you're supposed to be doing here on this planet, like, with absolute certainty, 100%. I mean, that there's a mystery there that's beautiful, that is not necessarily supposed to be known. And it's our soul's journey through this life is to find the little pieces everywhere and have a moment where you're like, you're like, I know in this moment I'm connected to it and I know I'm on the right path, but it doesn't give you the whole answer. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's okay. And I think that's part of the divine feminine, is being able to hold, I don't want to say all of it, because I don't want to give the image of us being like putting the world on our shoulders. It's about holding space for the mystery to be filled with whatever needs to come in at that time to give you the message and the learning for that moment. And too much nowadays, people want to know what it is right now. Want to know the answer to why things aren't happening for them right now so I can fix it. And that is what fertility was for me. And I just needed to know, what's the answer so I can fix it? What's the answer so I can fix it? Do you know what I mean? And every time I was given an answer, I'd try it and it wouldn't work. So it was kind of like, wow, this is actually one thing that I cannot really have an answer for. And there's a divine plan for what motherhood looks like for me, you know, and 10 years later, I'm still working on it. But I'm in a different place of holding it so that, you know, I'm never at a loss that like, oh, you know, I'm never going to be a mother. Like that thought doesn't enter my mind anymore. I don't know what it's going to look like. I mean, I'm about to start a crazy IVF cycle, which I beautifully raised money for from all my wonderful family and friends and people who really wanted to support me and Charlie, which in itself was a gift. Even before I start my IVF cycle, being able to fundraise money for someone who really just supports you, and even people who didn't know us, like, were sending us love and well wishes and all that kind of energy coming our way, that in itself was a gift. You know what I mean? And I'm not basing it off of the result of the IVF. That already was a gift. So that to me is the lessons I've learned up until now, because I'm not done learning. I'm far from it. You know what I mean? So I'm just open to see what's next. And I see women around me. So for example, I've been dancing in the Mermaid Parade, and I have this whole new group of beautiful, powerful, sexy, sensual, funny, and extremely intelligent women who I dance with like 4 or 5 times a year. And I love the companionship I have with them. But I also see how they struggle with, you know, holding this heaviness of needing to achieve or needing to get to the certain place. And I wanted to help them so much, because I'm like, I get it. I'm in it with you. I'm so in it with you right now. And so even though I haven't quote unquote figured it out, I felt like I needed to start holding that space and bringing my gifts to the forefront of holding a space where women can realign and rediscover their divinity and the magic of their bodies and their gifts, per se.
I love that. Now, for the practical, analytical brains watching, do you have some steps to align to this feminine wisdom?
Yes. So I'm about to have this seminar, so I don't want to give too much away because there's a lot to, again, unpack about that. But the first thing I would say is creating a ceremony for yourself. Now, ceremony, people, when they hear the word ceremony, they think of like a wedding ceremony or, you know, baptism, or a ceremony of sorts that's attached to religion or something like that. Being in ceremony is taking a conscious effort to go within, and whatever that looks like for you. I have never been a to the book, you know, meditator that can like sit down every day to the pillow. Because I remember people used to say, oh, you just have to show up to the pillow. Well, the pillow doesn't have to look like you sitting down and meditating for 20 minutes. That is a kind of ceremony. You know, there are so many different versions of ceremony that has you go within and connect with the deeper part of your soul, which is connected to everything. So rather than just be blocked with what's right in front of you right now and almost be in reaction, be in communion with everything that's around you. So how can you create a ceremony that is individually you? You know, I love to dance. Like anytime I go to rehearsal or I'm in my apartment and I put on Queen, I can get into ceremony by dancing and just losing myself to that moment. Another form of ceremony could be writing or journaling. Another form of ceremony is even just having a breath, work for yourself for 3 minutes at your office in the middle of your workday when you're panicking about something or something's not going the way. It's like, okay, let me connect back with the energy that is all around me and within me, that we can call spirit, we can call God. And it will ground you and it will root you. And it'll be like, listen, the thing that you're afraid that you're not know, you really do know in a sense that it's going to be okay. And even if you don't, just taking deep breaths into yourself and tuning into the body. So creating ceremony is essential, I think. And again, I'm not the kind of person who's like transcendental meditator. But meditation is great, like, when you can do it, but you just kind of have create an agreement with yourself on what that is for you. And depending upon what scenario you're in, how can you tap into it? If I'm work, I obviously can't get up and put on Queen and start dancing. Maybe you can. Some people can. Sometimes I'm at work and I can throw it on and that works. But, if you can't, what can you do in that moment? Do you know what I mean? So sometimes it's throwing on Oprah's Super Soul Conversations and just tuning out to that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's creating something for you that has you go within, because immediately that already aligns you. Another step is knowing what the different phases of your cycle are. And I'm going to go over that in my workshop. But what a really great book is, if you want to learn more about it, and not only learn more about your cycle, but learn more about how you can eat better and exert your energy in the appropriateness of where your body is cycling, is Women Code by Elisa. I can't remember her name. I can go grab the book in a couple minutes, but she does this really beautiful way of having women align to their endocrine system, and both energetically and physically. So women who don't have periods or never had a period, or they're, they don't know when their period's coming, she has a way for you to start aligning yourself back with it, so that your libido can get raised, your fertility options, become better. Your periods become much more manageable. But there's different ways that you can align to the different phases of your cycle that have you do the right activity. Like, those of us, this is what I relate to. I'm doing this crazy 80-day obsession on Beachbody, and it requires me to do a lot of fucking weightlifting and cardio and this and that. And there always is a week, and it's not even necessarily my period week, but leading up to, I start to feel exhausted and like, this doesn't feel right for my body. And I know that a lot of coaches will say, oh, you just got to push through it. You just got to push through it because that's commitment. That is a masculine way of dealing with it. However, if you look at your cycle, the week before your period is the luteal phase. And it is when your body starts to, release certain hormones and chemicals that are preparing your egg to be released through the body. And, your energy starts to get really low. So it may not be the time to do, cardio or weight, lift weights. And maybe you doing yoga, or just stretching and just paying attention to that part of your body. Again, it requires you to pay attention to it and know what's going on. Feel your body. Don't just go by textbook like, oh, this is my, luteal phase. This is, listen to your body. What's going on? Are you exhausted? And if you're exhausted, are you eating right? Like, there's just all these things that it's like, it makes logical sense, but we're so on the immediate path of like, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? Then we're not present to it. So being present to your body and its needs and its phases as a woman, which is why I love doing this workshop for just women, because there's a very specific thing that we need to get in touch with before we can help anybody else. So, and that includes the men in our lives.
Beautiful, beautiful. What would you say to someone that is in the masculine pretty deep and is looking at all this feminine wisdom like woo-woo talk, foreign, completely Chinese to them? I find it that especially with the people that have that wounded masculine, that are deep in their masculine, overpowering, over controlling, over functioning, are creating a lot of dissonance in their bodies, in their life, in their relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're still not present to their wounds, to that wounded masculine. They're still not aware of it. So how can we support people in becoming aware right now of their wounded masculine?
So it's interesting that you say this. I'm not going to say names, but one of my sisters the other day was just like, I'm not coming to your workshop. I just want you to know that. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I'm not into this like female energy woo, exactly what you just said, and she's like, I'm not into like sharing, and I get it, because I've been there. Like, please, before you and I did LP, I walked into the first day of discovery and I was like, I know this shit. I don't need this shit. You know what I mean? Like, or they're just like, they're just petrified to share that with anybody because they don't want to look weak, or they really enjoy being with themselves and figuring it out. And I honor that. First of all, never make that person wrong, ever. Because in truth, you don't know like what really does work for them. And the first thing you need to do is ask. You know what I mean? So so asking them like what's working for you, what's not, from a place of curiosity, not as a place of, well, I know what kind of medicine to give you because I see your type all the time. And that's bullshit. You don't know. Everyone's got different things that they're handling, and asking them where they feel it really works for them and where they're maybe struggling. And I would just say to someone, like, listen, you don't have to take it all in and shift your entire life. Like, take one thing that's you're struggling with, one thing, and breathe into it and choose one of the many different ways of ceremony that you can just start to do something different with it. Maybe it's, because this workshop I'm doing is called Dancing with Your Funk. And I purposely named it that because it's about movement. It's about moving through things. It's about moving through your stagnancy that sometimes creates melancholy or, self-worth conversations. And, but there is a funkiness to it. There's a heavy, like yucky funk, but then there's like a groove that you need to find for yourself. So someone who's super masculine, like what's one thing that they enjoy, and that they're struggling with, and how can you find a ceremony for yourself that starts to help you explore it? That's all, because sometimes people don't even know what it is, so asking someone to not only like know what it is, but then jump into a thing to heal it, it's too much. So it's just, identifying what it is that you're feeling lost in or that you're feeling stuck with. And when do you notice that comes up? You know what I mean? And then once you get those answers, like you just kind of say, okay, so, how would you like to be different? Like, how do you imagine it like being better for you? Like, where can you find space in that? And is there something you already are doing in your life that when you do it, you feel good? So I, for one, know that all of my mermaid sisters, whenever they're going through shit, they'll show up to practice. They will show up to practice and they will dance. and they may have a funk, but they'll dance through their funk, and or get together with the girls after practice for a drink just to share. Do you know what I mean? And that seems like, oh my God, that's like a girl thing to do. But you know what? It's very medicinal to not only move with your body, which is your first healing tool, but then to share with others and know you're not the only one going through it. So, to me, if you want to support someone, always be in the place of questioning and discovery, and not from a place of I know better than you or I know how to heal you, because you don't. Every person's different, you know? So that's the first place to start.
I don't believe that we heal anyone, actually. I believe that we create the space for them to heal themselves.
Yes. And that's what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
I have the solution for you. Like I never would call myself, I don't even like calling myself a healer. Like I know my energy is healing. I know that there are certain things I've experienced that when I share them, it allows other people to take on that modality to heal themselves. But that's why I say I'm a spiritual space holder. Like I hold the space because I've been through it enough that I'm starting to learn, because I don't know, only by experience, how to take other people's energy and not always absorb it, or how to say no to that energy, so that it doesn't get absorbed by me, which is a whole other lesson I've had to learn in this fertility process, is take, people in my life who are going through some really dark shadow work right now. And, as a quote unquote healer or someone who works in healing arts, like a lot of times you got to hold that stuff with people. But learning how to differentiate holding it versus getting in it, like, and involved in it, is a huge lesson to be learned, and a huge, beautiful boundary to create for yourself.
I
So,
love this. I love this conversation. Um, I want to ask you one more thing before we move on to our final question that I ask all my speakers. What would you say has been the biggest gift out of this experience with the fertility gift?
I mean, it has forced me to tap into my own magic, which I was not aware that I had magic when I was a little girl. I just lived in it. And then somehow through my adulthood and trying to achieve and trying to prove to myself that I could do certain things, um, that at one time I was told I could not, or that it was going to be more difficult for me than others, I went into this like whole space of, achievement and needing to, I don't want to say look good, but yes, look good, you know. And at some point during this fertility process, um, I've been petrified to let go of the things I know. Like I was an avid educator and I was being flown all over the world to teach makeup everywhere. And I was looked and revered to as an influencer. And then I noticed my makeup community became so disconnected. And it's more about what you look like under a filter, or who's got the most likes or followers. And there was a deep part of me that was like, I don't want any part of that. I don't, the only reason I want to use social media is to connect more people with each other, and a lot of what I saw is if I wanted to grow in that community, I would have to be ambitious, and I would have to be the next big fill in the blank. And I would need to, get a K followers, like under my profile. And it was just never resonated for me. But even though I was like, you know what, I'll do it if that's what I got to do. But honestly, it was slowing down and being okay with letting go the idea of how I played my art in that arena and not worry about being, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still have moments where I'm like, wow, the less I push to market myself and be in that arena, maybe the less relevant I am. But the truth is the healing that's needed in the world is so much more relevant than doing the next beautiful body paint that gets 500 likes on Instagram. It inspires. It inspires other people maybe to go for something that they want to go for. But honestly, at the end of the day, it has a stopping point. Moving energy, and whether that's through my art, because I started doing these healing paintings, which incorporate my art with supporting people with their energy and what they're going through right now. So much more like layers of depth of finding magic that I possess and letting it come through me and watching it have an impact on one to many people is like so much more prevalent for me than being famous or being, the best body painter in the world or the best makeup artist in the world, or the biggest influencer who teaches, on grand scale platforms, you know?
Such awesome medicine when we look at our challenges as gifts. Now,
Mm-hmm.
my last question, darling, is what are your top 2 to 3 tips on creating an epic year?
Well, I think that, again, I'm going to go over this in the seminar that I'm doing because it's about, looking at the winter for what it is. A lot of people get this funkiness um, around the winter time because there is, a standstill of the season. The year really ends at winter solstice. We say it ends on December 31st and starts on January 1st, but in reality, the year, so the darkest night of the year is, and the shortest night of the year is December 21st, right? And then the next day is when we start moving back into the light. If you think about it that way, we start moving back into the light and the new beginnings and the fresh, the getting ready to till the soil so that the new things that we're going to put forward are going to spring out of the ground and have, like fire and passion and bring good fruits into what's going on with you. So I think in these times where you feel slow or stagnant, it's not a time to be depressed that things aren't happening, but actually take a time to sit and do inventory. What did I learn from last year? Because people want to go right into what am I creating for the new year. But the thing is if you don't take what you learned from last year, the good and the bad, how can you because everybody wants to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't know who came up with that expression. Is the most ridiculous expression I've ever heard in my life, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's just like throwing everything away and not, like almost not looking at your darkness, not looking at what you did, and then like, I'm going to do it different this year. I was like, great, you can do things different this year. But every single thing that went down in 2018, shitty or not, was meant for you to build the path into this year. So don't ignore it. Look at it and journal or think about or meditate on what is it that I learned, even if it was a terrible breakup or it was, going through grief of losing somebody, which may still be very present for you, taking, or fight or friend that you disconnected with, whether that was a good thing for you or whether that was like something that that you need to look at because you feel deep inside that there was something that you could have done differently. Like all these things are going to start, adding to the foundation of building you into the next phase of where you're supposed to go. Do you know what I'm saying? So to me, I know you said give you 3 steps, but to me it's about creating an inventory, looking at your shadow space as well as your light, taking those lessons, and what are you going to create from those lessons? Like, what are the decisions and agreements you're making for yourself from those lessons going into this year? Also, in talking about agreements, making agreements that maybe this year is all about education for you. So, anytime an opportunity is presented to you and you have such a hard time making a decision, I was like, should I do this or should I do this? You always line it up to that original agreement. Does this have to do with furthering my education? No? Then no. And that's okay. You can say no. So like all the money that you want to spend on big things this year, like one year I did, Marie Forleo's
B school.
B school. And then I went to CEO space, out in Vegas. Like all the money that I felt good about because it was going towards education. Then the next year I had another focal point. This year, all of my money is going to go towards, and you fill in the blank, or all of my energy, I would say, because, money is energy, but like you also give your time as well. So if you're going to give like someone's asking, you want to be a part of my fundraiser or nonprofit thing, and you feel back, you're like, oh, I'm that kind of person that really should do that. Well, no, if it doesn't align with what you're up to that year, you say no, and you stick to your path. Now, be open to new experiences and things that you may not expect, but overall, stay aligned to what agreement you made for yourself. Because at the end of the year, all those will compile up and, build. Rather than you being scattered and putting your energy in so many different places, I always say there's no right or wrong path. There's just longer or shorter roads. And as we get older, we learn how to make those roads shorter. And that's by making agreements and sticking to them, to ourselves.
Absolutely. As we start tapping into our magic, our gifts, as we start diving deeper into our purpose, we can absolutely collapse timelines. Dani, thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful conversation on aligning to our feminine wisdom, and you really brought some amazing distinctions, amazing points. Where can people find you? How can people connect to you?
So as I said, it's really funny because I was laughing with my girls yesterday, and I'm like, I don't have a website that focuses on this energy work that I'm doing, because if you think about, shamans don't have fucking websites. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm a shaman. I am not a shaman. I don't want anybody to think that's what I was saying. But the point is like when you're doing the work, you're just doing the work. So if you want to know more ideas of how I'm living my life through this, on Instagram, I have my Beauty, Wellness, Soul profile. If you want to follow my art, it's The Body of Art on Instagram. I have thebodyofart.com, which is my art website. But again, I don't have really a website. I mean, I do have, I'll share the link for this workshop we're doing.
Yes, definitely share it in the links.
Yeah.
And she is tagged on this Facebook Live, so you can definitely connect with her on Facebook. Again, Dani, thank you so much. Thank you to our viewers that stood on with us live. If you have not registered to creatingyour2019.com, please do so. Every day we are giving away freebies from different experts, and we are sharing. You'll have all the replays packaged for you beautifully, so you have access to them all year round. Again, we will be back live at 4 p.m. with someone that I love dearly, who my ego was like, no, keep her to yourself. But I am going to share her with you all. And I won't even reveal the name. It's at 4 p.m. be sure to tune in. Thank you guys. I honor you, and I will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.